to see you, Brooke.
You heard the president this morning, before he headed to Texas, saying that his speech last week was totally fine, that everyone's overreacting. He called it a witch hunt. What say you, Congressman?
Well, it's not surprising, but it's disappointing that there's no introspection. And what people don't realize is that the threat of violence is not just against Democrats or progressives. It's actually against Republicans. I have talked to some of my colleagues, I don't want to say who, but who have had death threats, people who have voted for certification. They are facing the threats of violence. So this is a terrible situation for many people who are serving, and it crosses party lines.
So to your point about those threats of violence and even to your Republican colleagues, I just want to really directly quote what the president said this morning. He said, for Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to continue this path, meaning impeachment, I think it's causing tremendous danger to our country and it's causing tremendous anger. And then he ended with, I want no violence. He seems to imply, Congressman Khanna, and that you would be included here with a yay vote on impeachment, that you all could be provoking more violence.
Well, this just doesn't have any logic. It's as if someone commits a crime, robs a bank, and then says, well, the person to blame are the police for arresting them or the prosecution for holding them accountable. What we need is accountability for the act. And then we do need to figure out how we start to stitch this country together. And, Brooke, it's not going to be easy because the reality is there is still a large base of Donald Trump supporters in these constituencies who believe him. And we have to be candid about that this country is divided. And the question is, how are we going to have a peaceful transition of power and then convince a chunk of that base that it's time to heal this country?
That's such an important question on, even if some of these Republicans move away from Trumpism, we're all left wondering, what about these supporters and how do they, will they, why would they disavow the then former president? I want to ask you, Congressman Khanna, specifically on the vote tomorrow on impeachment. We're hearing, and Manu just said maybe 10 Republicans. I'm curious what you're hearing. A handful of Republicans will be willing to break ranks, vote with you in impeaching the president. Republican Liz Cheney referred to it as a vote of conscience. Do you know how many Republicans you expect to vote with you right now?
I've heard the same ballpark that Manu has. In fact, I had just told someone I think about 10 Republicans will, and that is showing real courage. But the Republicans are in the toughest spot right now, actually probably politically, who have the hardest decision, is the ones who didn't vote to overturn Joe Biden's legitimate election. They're facing enormous pressure, and I think many of them are grappling with their conscience and then what some of the base and constituency is demanding. And so it's an ongoing process, but I think around 10 seems realistic.